when it comes to like cold outreach for you, how many emails, phone calls would you say you're kind of averaging from a daily standpoint per week,
Well, it's interesting because it does ebb and flow, right? And after I go to a conference like the SHRM conference, it is typically about 2 weeks after the conference that I'm hit. So it's not usually the week I get back. It's almost like everyone knows, like, let them get back, get situated. But like week two, I am just flooded.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I would say it's it's the reason why we call it a cold call, right? There is nothing warm about it. They don't know me. They typically haven't done anything to research anything about me or my company. Um, for example, I recently left the company I was working at, and I'm still getting messages about what I could do for that company from
Mm-hmm.
vendors. And like I put this whole thing on LinkedIn about it. And I'm like, oh, like, not that I expect everyone to follow everything, but it just takes that extra 30 seconds to
Right.
notice, like, is that person still with the company? And, things like that.
Yeah, personalization seems to be a constant. This will be our fifth interview that we've done with a lot of HR leaders. And I mean, that seems to be the most constant thing. And I think, for me too, like when people reach out to me as well, it's like, how hard is it, to just like do a
Apparently, it's
little bit
really
of,
hard. And when you're
yeah,
busy, you're casting a wide net. And if you get a couple of bites, it's worth it.
right.
The other thing that I would say is that people that are really honest, I love that.
Hmm.
So, hey, Sarah, you don't know me. I would really like to be connected with you. And here's why. Like, just get to the point,
Yeah.
rather than, we were at the SHRM, and I can tell they're like reading their notes. We talked about blah, and I'm just like, oh, just be honest, like it's an awkward conversation, but cold calls are important. And there are times when I'm like, actually, I am looking for a new background screening vendor. I'm so glad you called. I can't really talk to you about it right now, but if you reach out to me in the next week or so, I promise to set up time because it is on my radar or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually a great segue into the next one, into the next question, which is like, what are the most common products or services that people are reaching out to you about?
Yeah, so I would say legal services, benefits like pet insurance, identity theft. People are calling about, it's usually vendors that HR uses. So it could be our HRIS system, our payroll company. Um, Lately I heard from a vendor who was, talking about the blue screen filters for employees. I thought that was really innovative, and I was interested. And I was like, again, this isn't something I can talk about right now, but I do think it's a great idea. Um, let's see. Of course, all the promotional anything, t-shirt, anything that's like got your logo on it. I hear from them a lot. Um, I During the pandemic, I think there was a huge influx of um, you know all these service providers, whether it be medical carriers or HRIS companies, payroll companies, insurance brokers. They all sort of came into that education space, which was really smart because they provided these free webinars during the pandemic to help HR leaders stay up on continuing education, but also to really connect that community. And
Hmm.
then it was a way for them to capture information. So by offering, it's the whole reciprocity, right? Let me
Right.
offer you this seminar on how to engage workers that are hybrid, right? How do people that are in office and remote, how do you make them all feel a part of the same company? And so that's a topic everyone's interested in. And so then you
Hmm.
have a great, hour presentation. And then right after that, hey, can we also show you a demo about, whatever it is we provide. Sometimes it's personality assessments or whatever it is their service is.
Right. Employee engagement seems to be a hot one right now, but
Yeah, anything around retention or development.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting. That seems to be a constant through all the people that we've talked to, is like, and then some people are also, and it just depends on where you're at with your company too. You know what I mean? Like sometimes there's just products or services that you need, and sometimes there's some that you don't. And
Yeah,
so
it's a
it
timing
just comes
thing,
at different time. Yeah, totally.
which is why I don't think cold calls will ever go away, because sometimes they're really effective. And like I said, this poor guy could be making, I don't know how many calls he makes a day, 100 calls, every day. And he does it for 2 weeks and he gets one big giant client out of it. It's worth it.
It's a big deal. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's not going to
absolutely.
go away.
Yeah, absolutely. Um,
What I am
how
always interested in is, what is a polite way to, like, rather than ghost a person, how do you get off the phone? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Because I'm an account executive, and I do marketing as well. And it's funny because like I almost appreciate sometimes, like from my perspective, when I'm making a call, right? Like I almost appreciate people that are like, hey, I'm good right now. I appreciate it though. See ya. You know,
totally.
you'll get some people that'll want to talk for a long time, and you're like, hey, this isn't the point. Like I'm trying.
I have
So
99 more people to call today. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But at the
Exactly.
same time, you want to acknowledge the human connection. And
Right.
yeah, it's tricky. That's why I
Yeah.
say, like, hey, we don't know each other. I got your number from blah, blah, blah. Um,
Hmm.
I just want to know, on the off chance you might be interested. If not, can I follow up with an email? You
Right.
know, and then a lot of times people will say, can I check back with you in 2 months? And I'll say, 2 months, maybe not, but why don't you check back with me at the, third quarter, beginning of third quarter,
Right.
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like when it comes to, you're giving me great segues, by the way, because
oh,
it
good.
sounds like when you're that you're fairly likely, would you say, on like a scale of 1 to 5, how likely are you to entertain a conversation or set up a meeting from a cold call? Obviously it depends, right? But like
It depends.
it
And
it
it
sounds like
also
you're open to
depends
it.
on how they got my information, like if it was through Sherm or LinkedIn. um, Typically I will, and if it's something I'm interested in, right?
Right. Right.
So it depends. It just depends.
Yeah. So scale 1 to 5, if say you get 10 of
Um,
them, say you get 10 calls and they're all right, you know what I mean? What would you say 1 to 5 likelihood you are to take a to take a meeting from a cold call?
I would say maybe a 3.
Right in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe a 4. I would say I'm probably more on the side that I'm open to it, just because,
Hmm.
especially the last company I was in, we were really in search of innovative, and also I mean, this is a really right time for HR. There's a lot of opportunity right now, and people are looking to increase, the value of our talent to the C-suite. So whatever we can do to increase efficiency or grow our teams or enhance culture or belonging. So if a vendor has something that's going to make my life easier or better, I'm open to it. And I think now more than ever, post pandemic, more than ever, I'm open to new ideas. Whereas before I was like, hey, this is working, don't fix it. But now, everything's up for grabs. It's, they say the great resignation, but it's also the great reset. You
Hmm.
know, everything is being looked at. So while, we've been using Workday for, 5 years, like, we're going to look at everything.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like I'm actually going to kind of throw a random one at you here then. So it sounds like if somebody is coming to you, if somebody's doing utilizing cold outreach and they're coming to you, it sounds like from your perspective, it would be more helpful to have something where it's like, hey, I've done a little bit of my research. I think I can solve a problem for you. Am I on the right track? So if they come to the
Absolutely.
table, yeah, if they come to the table with something tangible, if they come to the table with an actual resolution rather than being like, hey, you're a VP of HR and you're in biotech, like you're in biotech, right? I didn't get
Yes,
that.
yes,
Okay,
that's
yeah,
right.
that's what I thought.
But
I did, I
and
did,
those
I
are the
did
kind
some
of
research.
messages
Yeah,
I'll get. And then I'll get
right,
something that I know everyone else has gotten,
right.
rather than, hey, thank you for connect, like, let's just say it's a LinkedIn message. Thank you
Hmm.
for connecting with me. I'm really excited about whatever it is. Is this something you might be interested in hearing more about?
Hmm.
And I'll let people know, like, I'm pretty honest.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Is there any forms of like, is there any unique cold outreach that you've gotten before where it's like, hey, maybe this wasn't the right time, or maybe they didn't have the right product or service that we were looking for, but this was so unique that they'll be memorable
And I
and
tell people, hey,
yeah,
I
and you'll
really
tell
like,
people, right?
I give that feedback. If I like the way that they approached me, I absolutely give that feedback. I will tell you one approach that I don't care for, that I purposely not responded to, because I believe that, the purpose of feedback is either to reinforce something, or to correct it, right? And so sometimes no answer is the best answer. So I want them to know, like, hey, this is not effective. But they'll send a message and then they'll say, you haven't yet responded, or maybe you forgot about me, or this is the last time I'm going to reach out to you, and almost like this shaming.
Uh,
And I will tell you, it caught my attention because I'm in burnout mode, and
mhm.
many of us are. So, like, oh crap, did I forget to reach out to this person? Shoot, did I not respond to someone? So it immediately triggers something in me. And then I'm like, wait, I don't even know them. And
Right,
then I'm like, that's not fair. Like,
right,
that I am an overworked HR professional who cares about my responsiveness. That matters to me. That's part of my credibility. That's part of my reputation. That's part of what makes me effective, with my, employees and my coworkers and my superiors. Responsiveness is a big deal in HR. So
hmm.
to kind of use that to try to hook me, like, I don't like it.
I think that's somebody taught me that exact, basically everything that you just said, which is one other thing too, which I was taught from when I first started in sales. I can't remember who taught me this, but they said never dictate price for someone, which is a big thing in sales, right?
Yeah,
Like never say like, oh, it's pretty expensive. You don't know if it's expensive for them.
subjective. That's
And
subjective.
exactly. And then the other thing is never assume somebody has been like thinking about you, or or hasn't been thinking about you, or dictate how somebody's going to feel about something, because you don't
Yeah,
know them, especially during
right.
cold outreaches. You don't know them. You can't dictate how they're going to feel. You don't know what their life's like. You don't know what their work,
Yeah.
what their work week's like. So I think you nailed it right on the head there. That's exactly right. Is there anything else as far as like, is there any we'll kind of go from what not to do right there to, is there any unique outreach that you've gotten that's been like, oh, this was super creative, I liked that.
Um,
um
I will say it's the people that are direct and honest. I really like it. And I will say that, I really appreciated the way you said that. You articulated it really well, and it sounds exciting to me. It sounds like, I'm not interested at this time, but I really appreciated the way you reached out to me, or something like that.
sure.
Um, and I would say short, succinct, to the point, honest. Like, authenticity is a big deal, right? It just is. And I think people want to work with people they can trust. And when we don't know each other, like, all we have is that gut level, you know, am I being fooled? Am I, are they
Right.
pulling my leg? or are they being direct with me? So if somebody just upfront tells me, hey, we don't really know each other, I'm making this call because I'm hoping that, you know, by some crazy chance, you might be looking for me as I'm
Hmm.
looking for you, or whatever it is, um, I will respond to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's kind of shift gears over to LinkedIn. That's
Okay.
how we connected. I'm sure you get a lot of DMs there with people selling you different things or whatever the case may be. But when it comes to like LinkedIn cold outreach, is there anything that really shines bright to you, or anything that really is just like is a definite like sore? I don't I don't like this form of outreach or cold outreach, specifically when it comes to LinkedIn.
So I'm always curious when someone just wants to connect with me for like, I don't even know why. Um, so I do like that they ask on LinkedIn to add a note, but a lot of people don't use it. So, and then, you know, when I see those, I don't have time always to go and look at profiles. If it's an HR person, then I just usually automatically connect. But sometimes I'm like, I don't really get why this person, like, I don't even understand, you know? Um,
Hmm.
and so then it might be like a couple days later, I'll get a message from them. And then I'm like, oh, that's why they connected with me. Um,
Hmm.
but again, you know, I think LinkedIn is the right platform for it. So I don't want to criticize it. There isn't anything else like it. And I
Right.
appreciate the platform. I think LinkedIn messaging is great. I would much rather somebody reached out to me in a message than just posted something on, you know, my wall. And also I like it when people give me, um, you know, it's, you know, directly what they're looking for and why, and why me, you know. And then
Hmm.
they give me an option. Like, I love when people say, if you're interested, I'd love to talk to you for 15 minutes. Click here. And then I can make my own schedule. Like, I love when I get a direct link. That's fun.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I guess I like it when they put the ball in my court.
Sure.
So
Sure.
it feels a lot less pressuring.
Right. Right. It doesn't feel like they're all up in your grill. I get it.
Yeah.
Would you say, I'm sure you constantly get, yeah, I think maybe not necessarily an overplayed move from a sales perspective, but something that I think a lot of people do because it's just cheap and easy. I'm not a fan of it personally, but when people will throw statistics at you, right? Of like,
Yeah. And like sometimes in my LinkedIn message, I'll get this long like, I'm not reading those.
yeah.
I'm not. Like,
Hmm.
I just want to know what it is. And then if I'm interested, I'll ask you more questions,
Sure.
but I can Google it. I can go on your
Right.
website. I can go find it. So
Hmm.
I don't need you to give me that whole spiel. You know, that's why I say short, succinct, to the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you say that you believe the statistics that they're sending you though? Like, oh, 37% of our, the people that use our technology love it or whatever. 37 wouldn't be very good, but yeah. Do you believe the
You know,
statistics that salespeople send
that
you?
kind of a statistic is self-serving. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't not believe it. I would just kind of shrug my shoulders. Like, of course you're going to tell me that.
Right.
Like,
Right.
it's not like I go, wow, it wouldn't change anything. It's irrelevant
Right.
to me. But like, you know, if it was a fun fact, like, I forget what I used to know it, but in September, October 2020, it was this crazy amount of women left the workforce. I used to know it, but I forgot. But that statistic was really interesting to me. And
Hmm.
for a while, that was popping around. And it was because all these kids were out of school, and the
Mm.
women were just like, I'm home with these kids. I can't work and be in school. And the employers weren't keeping up, weren't providing flex. Some were, my
Hmm.
company did, but there were a lot of companies that didn't know what to do. And so you had remote workers that were also trying to parent at the same time. And rather than loosening the grip and giving people flexibility, um, you know, it got weird. Some companies got, we're going to make them more accountable. And, we really need to know if you're working or not. And those women left. They're like, I'm
Hmm.
out. My kids are more important. And we have never seen that kind of an exodus of women in the workforce. So anything around that statistic, I was reading about because I
Sure.
wanted my workplace to be different. I wanted to really cater to working women with children. And so we were really putting an emphasis. So if somebody had sent me something about that and then said, we are I don't know, an EAP counseling service that specializes in work-life balance or childcare providers or online tutoring for kids or whatever. Um, and I would have, responded immediately because it was something that was of interest.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so I say like metrics and statistics that are relevant matter. If
Right.
it's self-serving, like, 9 out of 10 customers refer to someone else, like that, I want to hear when we have a relationship. Like later, when I've seen an RFP, when, you know what I mean, when we're about to make a final decision, but not
Right.
when we're first meeting each other.
Yeah.
It's like dating. Like,
Yeah.
well, most of my girlfriends think that I'm great. You know, I still talk to 9 out of 10 of my ex-girlfriends. Okay,
That's so funny. Well, that's
lovely.
great. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be a bad thing in dating, I feel like.
Right, right. That's not a good example, but you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
nine out of 10, we ended on good terms.
Yes,
So, oh, that's funny. That'll be a clip. But
right.
last question for you, and then I'll get out of here. I know that we kind of went
Yep.
over time here, so I apologize. But
No, I'm talkative. That's
no,
why I don't have a voice.
this has been excellent, Sarah. I
Yeah,
really, really appreciate you.
yeah, no problem.
But is there any marketing specifically that really resonates with you? I mean, it's different in every industry, right? Like some industries don't even necessarily like require a ton of marketing, right? But if you could think of any, like, is there any forms of marketing, whether it be like, I love infographics. Those are the things I love to see. Or I love like short clip videos or interviews like this, just to kind of get your head spinning there a little bit. Is there any forms of marketing that really stick out to you?
I will say videos are a thing that's really helpful. Like, and like anything that's under 1 minute is great. Something that gives you just the nugget or the snapshot, and it's shareable,
Mm,
right? Anything that's shareable is helpful to me because I'm an HR executive who is anybody in my space is going to be an intermediary between, we're servicing employees, but we're accountable to the C-suite or to ownership or to a board or whatnot. So in HR, we're spending money. I'm a
right.
cost center, right? So
Hmm.
I'm constantly having to demonstrate, ROI. I'm having to show, why this is beneficial. You know, the why of everything it's a big deal. So if I'm looking at something, yes, you've got to sell me first, but then I have to turn around and sell it too.
Right.
So anything that's shareable. So if it's an infographic, great. I can forward it on and say, look at this, da da da, da, or here's a video, da 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 da. Anytime, like for example, there was a great company I worked with called Giftagram. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Mm-mm.
It's a great company because well, I was about to do a whole commercial for them. But anyway, you don't need that. The bottom line is they gave me everything I need to get it approved. So
Hmm.
while they would feed me with what it was that made them special and different, why I wanted to use them to get gift cards to our employees over any other gift card company. And they gave it to me in such a digestible form. I was able to turn around and share it with others without putting too much work into it. yes, I applied my own metrics and my own reporting from our company, but pretty much they gave me my presentation so that I could sell it, so that we could get it approved. So, anything that's shareable.